Good morning, humans. Today I want to talk about NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming. This is about a book I bought online somewhere at a used bookstore, and I read it, and I didn't particularly like this book, but I did want to talk a little bit about neurolinguistic programming. So neurolinguistic programming sort of goes along with hypnosis. In this book, it's more self-help. So it's more about the things you tell yourself to get yourself to think more positively about life or your situations. And it has to do with the words you use and the ideas behind those words and your intuition about the words that you're using. So in this book, we have Uncommon Therapy. This book is about a doctor who used the trance state. And I know people, they don't understand the trance state. So being in a trance, that state. So they sort of laugh it off or, oh, that's not real and that doesn't work and all that stuff. Well, I can tell you that hypnosis for a fact does work because for one, I'm trained in hypnosis. And the other thing is that when I was in the military, I was witness to a tragic accident involving another sailor, and my mind went somewhere else. So I couldn't recall details, and it's called traumatic amnesia. And so after a few months, I went to see a counselor, and she asked me would I do hypnosis because I was the only one there that was in view of this incident, this tragedy. And so to get all the rest of the details, the investigators, and when there's a sailor's death or any soldier, any military person's death, there's a huge investigation on it. They don't just, pencil whip it and they died and we report it, and that there's a huge investigation on it. And the packet for this person's investigation, which I had a copy of, it now belongs to someone else that I've given it to, is about this thick. And so in order for them to get the information from me, they had the I believe it was the flight surgeon come in and perform hypnosis. And he also did the things where they put the needle in. I forget what that's called. He did that kind of stuff, and I was able to watch him do that kind of stuff. But he also was able to do hypnosis. And so he came into the counselor's office, and he was able to do hypnosis to extract the rest of the information. So when the counselor asked me if I would do hypnosis, I kind of laughed because, I'm 21 and I'm like, whatever. And she was like, well, why do you laugh? And I said, well, I don't know, it just kind of seems sort of witchcrafty, And she's like, well, would you try it? And I was like, sure, I'll do anything to get to the bottom of things so that they can complete the investigation and finish up their report and stuff. So these investigators waited a long time for this information because they had to wait until I was ready. And so that brings me to this idea that when I was learning hypnosis so that I could do this for other people, one of the things they tell you is you can't make someone do something they don't want to do. And so what does that mean, really? Because that could have two meanings. Does that mean I shouldn't ethically make someone do something that they don't want to do, but that I can? Or does that mean that it's impossible to make someone do something they don't want to do? And perhaps it means both of those things. But I think if you put a person in the correct situation, or maybe even the wrong situation, they will do things that they normally wouldn't do. So I wouldn't just go out and shoot someone. But if I saw someone hurting another person, like a child or an old person who is helpless and couldn't defend themselves, I may shoot someone to help them, okay? So normally I wouldn't inflict harm or violence on someone, but if I felt like it was necessary, then I might. So what does that statement mean? You can't, you shouldn't, or it's impossible. So the words they use can be confusing. And I think that a lot of politicians do this when they talk to people, and they do it when they write the laws. So there was a guy on, I think it was Facebook. He had a YouTube video that he posted on Facebook, and he was a jural attorney. And what he was saying was that he could convince anyone that the earth was flat, because this is what jural attorneys do. They're trying to win their case, and they'll do anything to win their case. So what I learned in college when you're writing a paragraph is you tell them what you're going to tell them. You tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. And that's how you write a paragraph. So basically, this attorney was doing the same thing. He was telling them what he wanted them to believe. He was setting their frame of mind up. And then he told them all these random facts. Some of them, they were facts, but they didn't really apply to logically to what he was saying he wanted them to believe the facts meant. So if I say, you can't do that, does it mean it's impossible, it's unethical, or just that you shouldn't? Okay, so if this attorney is saying, this is what I want you to believe, and then I'm going to give you a whole list of things why what I'm telling you is true, and then at the end tell you all these things that I've told you are the reason why you should believe these things that I just listed, and that all the things that I listed are true. Now he's told you what he wants you to believe. He's given you all these reasons to believe it. And then he reminded you of what you're supposed to believe, that all these things mean. And this is a trick. It's a trick that they use to get you to believe something that isn't true. If they didn't need you to believe it wasn't true, something that wasn't true, they wouldn't have to tell you, this is what I want you to believe. Believe these things, and that's what I want you to believe and why. They wouldn't have to do that because they could lay out the facts and let you come to your own conclusion. They say this a lot about the school textbooks. Like, the school textbooks will tell you a story and tell you why you should believe that the story is true, instead of just laying out the facts and letting the children, the school children, come to the conclusion of what to believe on their own. So, uncommon therapy, putting people in a trance, neurolinguistic programming, setting up a perception of things is a lot of how politicians speak to us, a lot of how movies, music, television shows, politicians, and the things that they write is a lot of what they're doing. They're telling you what to believe and why to believe it. They're giving you some information that sometimes doesn't even make sense alone by itself, and then telling you that's why you need to do this, or that's why you need to believe this, because I've given you all these facts. So one of the facts that this drill attorney stated as part of the reason why you should believe that the earth is flat is that because when you're flying in an airplane and you're going around the earth, you never actually are upside down. And this was a reason you're supposed to believe the earth is flat. One of the reasons. Alone, that doesn't make any sense, that you go around the earth in an airplane, and when you get to the bottom, you're not upside down. So he just told you the earth is round, but when you fly to the other side, you're not upside down, so it must be flat. But he just said it was round. And he says this is what they use to get people on juries to find other people guilty of crimes. And these crimes that they supposedly committed, are they really crimes? They told you it was a crime. You're here because it's a crime. The federal government must have jurisdiction because they're charging. They make a big deal out of it. And then they say, here's the law, and here's the this, and here's the that, and we're all here, and people believe it. But when you get up into the areas of education of PhD and master's degree, people start to understand the wordplay, and they grasp right away the fact that someone's trying to tell them what to think about the information, giving them the information that appear to be facts that support what they want you to think, and then reminding you at the back, at the end, remember, you're going to find this person guilty because I told you all the facts of why this person's guilty. Okay, so when you're reading the laws, it's the same thing. They're making statements that appear to be facts that really aren't facts, and standing alone, they don't do anything. They don't mean anything. For example, the word individual. You find individual in almost every single law that is written by the feds and the state. So when people see the word individual, they think individual means everybody. Everyone's an individual, and the law says individual, so it must mean individual. But individual can have a lot of different standings. So you can be an individual who owns a corporation and therefore be a corporate entity. An individual is used in that sense. You can be an individual in the military. And so when they're writing the law and they say individual, they're actually meaning the members of the military. They can be using individual as individuals within a sphere. It's just that they don't come right out and say they only mean the individuals in that sphere. You have to sort of read between the lines to figure that out. And a lot of people who don't have a master's degree or a PhD, they don't understand this stuff. They don't understand. They say, well, it says individual, and so that means everyone. So I talk about a lot of different things in my videos, and I don't know if I'm not being clear or if people are just so stuck on what they've been told or taught in the past that they can't move beyond that and understand things from a different perspective. So this video that I'm making here today is to try to help you understand that a lot of what people tell you is told to you deceptively, and they mean to do it deceptively. If they didn't do it deceptively, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't buy into it. You wouldn't do it, buy it, sell it, want it, get it in the arm. And so they tell you a lot of lies, but they frame it. They frame it with, well, you know, if we don't do this, all these bad things are going to happen. And here's a list of all the bad things that are going to happen if we don't do this thing now. Now, the president can mandate it. We don't want to have to do that. We don't want to have to mandate to people. We just want people to go and do it on their own, because that's the right thing to do, to help your fellow men out, to help your community out. You should just go and do it on your own. But if you don't, we'll do a mandate. Okay, so the federal government can't mandate for anybody unless you have already agreed under oath. And I don't want to get too much into that kind of thing right now in this video, but this is the stuff that they do. And so when they write, when the president writes the mandate, nobody understands it. Okay, because it sounds like we mean that everybody in all businesses have to do all these things. But the truth of the matter is that the federal government can only mandate for the things that it has constitutional control over, which is actually very, very little. And people won't accept that because they have already a perception that government is in charge of everything, government owns everything. And to some extent, in reality, they do, because they have tricked us for so many years. They've used deception, they've used fraud, they've used deceit, they've used contracts that they have made sort of using the Constitution, deceivingly using the Constitution to get you to believe that you have to sign all these papers and do all these things and pay all this money to them, so that they can take from you and do these things. And then over time, they've written these laws that sound like they include all of you, all of us. They come out and they say, you have to do this and you have to. Who is you? Who is they? Who are the people that they're talking to? Because they can't talk to everybody. They can't control everyone. They want you to think that they can, so that you will do it on your own. Okay? So when they say you can't make someone do something they don't want to do, I think that's bullshit. It all depends on how you understand that statement. And it depends on how you understand anything that anyone is saying. So you have to stop and think, what are they saying? And are they saying anything? Because a lot of times the president will come out and he'll say, you have to, they have to, businesses have to, the government has to, our agents have to, and they have to, but only to a small group of people on certain lands who have an oath, who have sworn allegiance to the federal government. And that's not all of us. You're not born a subject in this country. Now, if your parents sign a birth certificate, that's a whole nother issue, and it creates a legal entity, which then appears to make you be a part of that system. But if this is a free country, then you have the freedom to choose your government, right? You have a freedom to choose everything. But they've misconstrued all kinds of stuff. So what I want to ask you to do today is, from now on, when you hear any politician, anybody on the news, doesn't matter if they're mainstream, it doesn't matter if there's some guy at their computer at home trying to tell you something, it doesn't matter if it's a movie, a television show, a court case, anything. When they say things and they use very general and broad terms, ask yourself, who exactly are they talking to, and who do they have a right to talk to? Okay? Are they trying to convince me of something? Do they want me to fall in line? Do they want me to be a sheep? Are they trying to get me to be a sheep? Are they trying to get me to buy something? Are they just trying to use me to get something, to better themselves, to have a win-win situation for them where I don't win anything? Okay, so start asking yourself those kinds of questions. So when the president comes out and he says all businesses, well, if you're a private business and he's a public person, he can't say all businesses and include private businesses. He can say all businesses under federal control, like the ones on the military posts. There's plenty of case laws on this. There's plenty of regulations on it. The problem is what they say and what they write are all vague and can be misconstrued and can be misunderstood. And we really need to wake up and start looking at what they're saying and trying to realize and trying to put in perspective what it exactly is that they have authority over and what they don't, and why they're trying to get authority over me or you. Okay, so that's my video this morning on neurolinguistic programming and framing your mind to get you to think certain things, using certain words to get you to think a certain way about what it is they're saying, and to get you to start thinking about when they say certain things, who exactly are they talking to, and who the hell do they think they are to assume that I'm just going to fall in line and do what it is that they want me to do. Okay, so have a good morning, have a good Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday, and I'll see you guys in the next video.